In this video, I will be introducing you to the basic requirements of the minimum energy efficiency standards, which I will refer to as MEES from now on, focusing on the key actions that landlords need to take in advance of an upcoming deadline of the 1st of April 2023, when the regime becomes significantly more robust. Just to point out at this stage, we will be focusing on commercial property in this video, but there is a similar regime for residential sites. So if you have any queries about your residential portfolio, please do get in touch. So first off, what even is MEES? The basic requirements make it unlawful for a landlord or a tenant in a subleasing scenario from letting substandard property unless it has made all of the relevant energy efficiency improvements, none can be made, or there is an exemption which may be relied on from time to time for each property. Now, we will be covering exemptions in a future video, so for the purposes of today, I will assume that none apply. And in that scenario, the relevant improvements which must be undertaken are those either set out in an EPC recommendation report or another surveyor's report, and in either case which must meet what's called the simple payback. Now, unfortunately, the simple payback isn't actually simple in practice, but in essence, it means that the works have to pay back via a reduction in the cost of energy bills for the property within 7 years. So really all this means from a practical perspective that landlords will need expert energy assessor advice and probably also legal advice when seeking to understand whether works are required and if so, what those works look like, because that will differ from site to site. Okay, so then how do you know if this applies to a property and what makes that property substandard? Currently, the minimum level of energy efficiency is an EPC rating of E, and a property is defined as substandard if it falls below this level, i.e. is an F or a G rating. However, there is an expectation that both the MEES regulations and the building regulations will be tightened to both tighten the requirements of what's required to achieve an E at the current time, and also then to lower the bar of what substandard means going forward. But otherwise, basically lettings of all properties are caught by MEES, other than where they do not have or do not require an EPC, or they are let for 6 months or less, providing that the same tenant isn't in occupation for more than 12 months, or for 99 years or more. Okay, so that's the basic position. Moving now on to what's changing on the 1st of April. As a reminder of the current requirements, the bar on granting new substandard tenancies without undertaking the relevant works has actually been in place since April 2018, including where extending or renewing existing tenancies since that date. However, from the 1st of April, it will be unlawful to continue to let all leases without following the requirements of the regime. And although this is sometimes misunderstood, that does include all leases currently in place on that date. So overnight, you effectively end up in a scenario where a landlord's existing tenancies with its existing tenants, which are rated F or G, will be unlawful, unless in advance of that, the landlord can ensure the relevant works are undertaken, can take steps to rely on an exemption, or can otherwise prove that that tenancy falls outside of the regime in its entirety. So really the key point of action now for landlords is to audit and understand their portfolios, to enable forward planning and prioritisation as much as that's possible before the 1st of April anyway. And it's really about understanding where the current substandard units are, what works would or might be required to upgrade them, and when and how this work could be done, focusing on upgrading the most urgent properties for now, and making sure to liaise with tenants properly and early in respect of those units, and also considering exemptions in sufficient time to get them registered with the relevant backup information. But once the urgent units are dealt with, it's really not a case of just stopping there. It's then important to look at future units which may become substandard, either because the regime tightens, as we discussed earlier, or an EPC is triggered which comes forward with an F or G rating, as these will automatically become unlawful to let on a rolling basis post 1st of April. And lastly, this really should all be aligned with a coordinated strategy for the portfolio as a whole. For example, is the property due to be sold or refinanced? And could the standard of the building impact on that all the MEES compliance requirements? We at CMS have seen some recent deals where the standard of EPCs or the potential future cost of MEES works have been key transactional issues and occasionally affecting price. So this is a real risk over and above enforcement of MEES itself.